what are you building?
When Iron Man designed their suits, it's all kind of visual.
If you figure it out, congrats, you're going to save society.
They already do these sales competitions. They already have this gamification software. It's just bad.
You will get banned 1,000%.
They are trying to find more space because space is a hot commodity in New York City.
What's cool about your product? Tell me something cool.
Frankly, if you can't sell it at scale, it's going to be really hard to get excited.
Every week, startup founders get up on stage and give the 1-minute pitch for their company and their vision of the future, and then they get 10 minutes of unfiltered feedback and Q&A from 2 check-writing startup investors, all aimed at helping them move their narrative and storytelling to the next level. I'm your host, Shervin, and I'm the founder and CEO of venture-backed free agency. We provide Hollywood-style representation for tech talent. I'm also an occasional angel investor. Hope you enjoy the show.
Anna of Altari Ventures is my guest today. Both introduce yourself literally and maybe also talk about how you perceive pitches as an investor more broadly that you think might influence how you see them today.
I'm Anna Garcia. I'm founder of Altari Ventures. I started the fund as a solo GP 2 years ago, so I'm very much an entrepreneur myself. But I did work in financial services for a long time before venture. Then I started angel investing while working in banking, then gradually kind of transitioned out of that, was at another fund as a partner prior to starting this one that was more B2B SaaS focused and kind of more generalist. So yeah, I participate in a lot of different events in the startup ecosystem. Love to support the founders of trying to obviously learn how to tell the story, raise capital, do some great things. It's always very exciting. I mentored a bunch of accelerator programs. I'm on panels, this is obviously a very artificial setting. So I think how I view pitches, I think it's good to be under pressure to get your message very condensed and kind of articulate that in a way that's compelling, even if you have a very short period. But in reality, I rarely do something like that when I'm evaluating a company. I tend to take my time to really hear who they are, the founders. That's more interesting to me at the beginning, and then kind of why the business, what the business is, and that becomes kind of the next chapter. But first, I kind of want to understand where they're coming from. We're probably not going to get a chance to do that today, but we'll maybe get a glimpse.
That's up to them.
Exactly, that's true. But yeah, I always enjoy these kind of interactions. I'll try to be helpful and not too tough, but
We want your toughest. So we're going to hopefully have some very receptive and intentional entrepreneurs on stage. With that, Anna, are you ready?
I am.
Crowd, are we ready? Let's welcome founder number 1 with a round of applause. Tell us, what's your name?
Hi, my name is Fran.
Fran, are you ready?
I am very ready.
Awesome. You have a minute. What are you building?
Hi, I'm Fran. I'm building Spectral. So Spectral is basically like maps, but for helping software engineers to navigate massive, complex code base. So the way it works is it visualizes functions and variables in an interactive flowchart. And it shows this functions and variables, how it flows in your code base. So a traditional text-based product like VS Code or ChatGPT is not enough because I think humans are inherently like a spatial thinker. So projecting this code into like a 2D space where every engineer can see everything in the product can be helpful to help their understanding the code. I'm at Google for 3 years, and before that, in a high-growth startup for 4 years, doing code refactor in a massive code basis, and I baked in all of my experiences into Spectral. We have 500 users now that uses our VS Code extension, and we're looking to grow that to 1 million users.
All right, over a minute. Good job. I'm going to start with some small feedback because I don't want to forget it. You're not a map. The analogy to map confused me more than it helped me.
Okay.
And maybe if it came later, I would have been like, okay, I get like a map as a flowchart and all those things are sorting mechanisms. Mm-hmm. But when you said map and then you were like, I don't remember what your next sentence was exactly. I realized you're building something related to, kind of, it sounds like an IDE-ish. Mm-hmm. I don't think of a map as being helpful in that moment. And then you also like compared yourself to VS Code and ChatGPT. Those are 2 very different products.
Right.
I do think you need some centralization of like the analogies you're using and only use a few and only use the ones most relevant to you. Sounds like a flowchart is probably the most helpful. Mm-hmm. But maybe let me loop from that to my first question for you.
Sure.
I followed kind of a problem statement. I followed this opportunity of like spatial thinking for programmers, but I didn't quite grok product from all of that. So what is it literally, especially in the context of like, are you a full-fledged IDE? Are you something, on top of another coding environment? Talk to us about the product.
Yeah, so right now it's a VS Code extension that people can install in their VS Code. And what it does is from their code editor, they can right-click on a function, for example, and then trace it inside Spectral, right? And that function will appear inside Spectral window, like in a different window. And then that's like one node. And then so function calls another function, right? So if you click that function that is being called, it will show like another node, right? And then you can keep kind of clicking this, and then you'll see kind of like this interactive flowchart about your code that you can, leave highlights, you can leave notes, right? And then you can share that flow of code to like other people, right? This is useful for if you want to onboard like a new engineer, right? So the senior engineer can, open their code base in VS Code and then create like, okay, I want the engineers to show this, like to see this flow of code starting from this function, right? It's useful for debugging, right? So that starting from this function, I know like some data is corrupted.
Okay, so I'm going to interrupt you. I get the flowing and the. Why is that more than an extension? Where's this business going?
So ultimately, I wanna be replacing code editor. So like I said earlier in my pitch, I really do believe humans are inherently more spatial thinker than like a tabs-based thinking, like a typical visual, like a typical editor is, right? So basically,
but a line of code next to a line of code next to a line of code, that can't be replaced by spatial thinking, right? Like
so the unit of thinking, I think it's more like a function. So a function consists of a bunch of lines, right? And this function as one unit is the.
How often am I, as the individual user, thinking about a function as it relates to another function, as opposed to trying to fix an issue inside of a function?
All the time. So basically the term is semantic understanding. So understanding the function itself is not useful, but understanding how that function relates to every other function.
Right. But am I constantly going to be on a discovery? I guess I'm thinking of this in the terms of like, when do I want to go to a flowchart?
Yeah, so you want to go to flowchart if you want to get like an understanding about the code, either just to understand before
That's why your onboarding example makes a lot of sense to me, I think.
Yes.
But I worry, I'm going to pause for a second and hand it over to Anna, but like that's maybe, and I will have more feedback by the time we get to the end of the conversation, but like right now, I'm very stuck in like, sounds like a great useful extension, sounds like there's some unique use cases to the grand vision, and usually, I'm pride myself on being maybe a little bit good at like helping and guessing at where a founder is going, and I'm a little bit struggling, and that is maybe a sign of like, hey, you're going to need to in your pitch, especially I'm a product-oriented founder, I'm a product person by background, I'm somewhat technical. If I can't imagine that like 10-year outcome of like, if you succeed, what's the name of the company again?
Spectral.
If Spectral is replacing every IDE out there, like what does that world look like? If I can't imagine it, a lot of other people won't be able to too, I think.
Cool. Thank you so much.
I think I'm just going to zoom out of the product and into the business. What wasn't clear to me was what makes this sounded like a nice to have to me. It seems like a better way of doing things, but I didn't hear like a problem. It seems like, and if there is one, I would say state that up front, because obviously your background's technical, so it's natural for you and you're living the sort of creation of the product now. So I understand why you started there. But I would say, think about what's the business. Like, even when you're referring to people, so people are doing this, like, who are the people? Like, are these managers? Are these the individual users? Who's potentially going to be buying this? Like,
Parting
are these
with their money?
Yeah, and when you say you have 500 users and you want to have 1 million users, like, are these paying users or are these free users? And what are they paying kind of at 1 million users? Like, what's sort of the business backbone here for what you're trying to build? So that's what I would be thinking about as an investor listening to you. And even if you've got the coolest technology, frankly, if you can't sell it at scale that generates the kind of revenue that makes you a venture backable company, it's going to be really hard to get excited. And what I'm saying is not that you don't have that. I would just pull that up and say, like, this is what's happening now. Maybe what does this inefficiency cost the companies that are, using alternatives? And why would your And the fact that it sounds like you maybe lived the problem a little bit. Like, I don't know what you did at Google, but
1000%, yeah.
Right. So maybe you bring a little bit of that into why this would be a life-changing solution for you in your day-to-day there. So I don't know if that's the case, but certainly if you can pull out those data points, that would be really, really helpful for setting the stage because you're so early. And, for me, what came across is just surface kind of background. I'm guessing you're very competent technically, so I'm not going to question that you're going to build a good product, but I'm going to wonder if you're going to be able to sell it.
Right.
So let's turn, because I think that all of that is still also where I am. So from a big pain point meets solution, maybe react to everything we've just said. It's a lot, but bring us closer to what you think you're building in that long term.
So I talked to a lot of users. I talked to close to 100 engineers. And the biggest pain point is when I know a friend of mine who's working in a payroll company. And so as a payroll company, they have like a very tight kind of service level agreement. So meaning like, if the service is down, we need to get it back up kind of like by tomorrow type of thing. And we need to fix that problem by tomorrow type of thing. So they cannot just, roll back and the feature is gone. So they need to fix that right away. And the experience of engineers doing that, yes.
I don't think this is going to address in a compelling way. So I want to let me tell you why what you were saying is not compelling.
Sure.
If you're saying, look, engineers need to route inside their code a lot, and a flowchart is a better way to route than a file, a directory, a listing, file structure, sure. And that's why your extension should exist. Mm-hmm. I'm with you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What's cool about your product? Tell me something cool.
So
what's interesting? You said you want to replace code editors. You want to be an IDE, right? Like you're an extension today. Cursor exists, right? People are adopting Cursor. Why would someone adopt you instead of Cursor?
Right. So my future vision, I know people say a lot about like, I'm making Jarvis for this, but I'm really trying to be that. And Jarvis is like product like Cursor, ChatGPT, like or just general chat bot. It's not really bringing Jarvis, because what Jarvis to me is when Iron Man designed their suits, it's all kind of visual, right? So like he sees kind of like, oh, the feet looks like this, the helmet looks like that, right? I want to bring that for coding, right? And I think code is inherently like a graph. That's a natural form of code. So if users can see the form of the code in natural form, they can make kind of like changes much more productively, right? So like they can do something like, okay, for this flow, like doing this flow, selecting in my flow chart, can you change it to do something else? Can you make it improvement, right? Versus chatbot, it's like a lot of times engineers need to like describe, okay, I want to make changes in this file.
When I'm passing a bunch of my code in context to Claude, or I'm in Cursor, it's going to understand structure. I don't need to give it a visual.
No, because like the problem is like, I think right now it's either the context is too much or too little, right? Because like a lot of times, at least in my experience, and after talking to a lot of people, they need to be able to describe the context in a more specific way. And my product is doing that in an easy manner by just like highlighting, okay, like I just want to change this part of the code base, right? Versus if you pass in everything as a context, you're going back to the square one, because you need to kind of like, okay, I just want to just change this specific file, and you typing that out versus like visually pointing. So that's what's different.
I just want to like wrap this for the final point because we're looking at the clock. But I'd say ask the question, and so what, right? Like so what? So the engineer could have a better life. So the company would get something turned around much faster, so it doesn't cost them X, because of the whatever contractual obligation, or do they not have to hire another engineer because of that? Or so what is kind of the implication of that? Because that to me is kind of the most important thing that you can convey to investors about a business.
Yeah, and I'll wrap with this. I think I actually disagree with this because I think it comes next. I agree with it philosophically. I think founder to founder, person to person, taking off the stage as right. The context. As a product person who's like more technical, I actually have the so what question. So her so what question is great for someone who's figured it out. my honest feedback to you, unless you showed me your product and it's like very different than what you've told me so far, I'd encourage you to, like, as a founder, product person, you're not doing enough different from Cursor from what you've described so far.
Gotcha.
And I feel like, look, I've been trying to imagine it, right? Okay, it's visual. There's a flow chart. You said highlights and comments. I'm thinking, oh, there are a lot of companies right now like trying to be Figma-like and that it's collaborative and multiplayer all at the same time. But even that doesn't feel that interesting to me. Maybe that's the challenge, because then if it was interesting enough, then you answer her questions. Because first is product interesting.
There's a so what at every stage, at every step. Yeah.
And so, look, and maybe you have those answers now, maybe you don't. But I just want to give you that feedback since I have that opportunity. Is like, I like a lot of the spatial thinking as like a prompt.
Yeah.
I still don't see how that forms, but I hope you figure it out, and thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thank you so much for the advice.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So, I think the thing I'm feeling here, and I think probably you sometimes feel this at accelerators when you're giving kind of mentorship, so I wonder if there's something that you encourage, kind of like we encourage them to think about, so what? The hard part for me there was, even as I tried to imagine so many so whats, they all felt a little weak.
Well, I think, I gave him the benefit of the doubt that the product is going to be figured out. And then the next bigger problem was, like, is there a business here? Yeah. I think you were like, the product may not even be that. And, obviously that's something that you'd probably investigate if you were digging in to see if it's materially different or.
And the hard part too is, like, I could imagine the product and it looks cool in my head in terms of like the spatial understanding of flowchart. And again, it makes sense that this extension exists. And so maybe sometimes someone's taking a big leap from like being a feature somewhere to being a whole product. And maybe that's some of the job that he has to figure out.
And that's, by the way, very much the risk that this is a feature.
Yeah, exactly.
Or like an enhancement to something that's immaterial, actually.
Yeah. Shall we welcome founder number 2 to the stage?
Yes.
With a round of applause. What's your name? Say it into the mic.
Hello, my name is Britt.
Britt, nice to meet you.
Yes.
You're going to have a minute to tell us what you're building and get some feedback. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Britt, what are you building?
Okay, so hello, my name is Britt. I'm the CEO of LVLUP, and we build software to make sales feel like a video game. So at the entry level of your reps, a lot of them feel significant disengagement towards the job. This might be because of the characteristic rejection in sales. You're always told no. In addition to the fact they might just see the job as a stepping stone, not a full-time career. So this demographic is also typically young men, and young men have a high propensity to play video games. So our solution, we meet these guys where they're at, and we make a gamified product where as you're selling in real life, you're progressing through a game, you're earning rewards, you're earning prestige, and you're always motivated to level up. So we have a couple things working in progress, and we're excited to see what we can deliver in the future. So thank you. And I have 10 seconds.
We'll keep on talking. Don't worry. Let's give you a round of applause for the pitch. Feels very clear. And I'm excited by this. This is interesting. Do you want to go first? Should I go first?
Yeah, I can go first. I mean, I agree with you. The problem in sales, it's a very difficult role to fill, and there's longevity is an issue. But I didn't understand from what you were saying what specific industries this was for. If there's, and also like, salespeople generally are motivated by money. That's their leveling up in real life version. So why do they need another sort of level up in not the real world? Like, is money not enough?
A great question. So to answer the question, it's high volume. So we're not focusing on a strategic account executive that's already making 200K. They are motivated by money. They're closing multi-million-dollar deals. We're focused on those that are at their entry level selling maybe cable for Spectrum or life insurance. And the thing is, you do get paid. You do have a natural high in sales, so to speak, but it's not that consistent. And when you get 10 no's in a row, I mean, we're humans, we're social animals. When you get rejected that much, it sucks. So having something that's in front of you that's not a sales competition in the back of your office, but it's actually on your phone and you're progressing, that little bit of motivation.
So can I just understand this? So are you saying that, for example, if I made 10 sales calls and I logged it into the game, or whatever I guess you want to call it, I still get a reward even if I got all 10 no's? Is that sort of the psychological, gain here?
Yeah, that's part of it. So also we integrate, so you wouldn't have to do like double data entry because that would be that would suck a lot.
Well, right. So I mean, whatever you've put into your call log system, CRM, right, that just automatically funnels through. So you basically have done 10 things, and you maybe got a reward in your alternative universe.
Yeah, and you would be advancing. Like that's really it. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, you would be advancing. That's really it. Just showing progression. And we think that's helpful.
And is just one more question, and you can. I guess I was trying to also understand. So you mentioned a couple of industries: insurance, Spectrum, whatever, sort of low. Have you kind of done any research on these industries? What industries have you researched, and what feedback have you gotten about? Would they embrace this? Like, because they would be paying for it.
Specifically, that's why I brought up those two specific ones. Is because we're engaged in more serious talks, and we want to see how we can actually level up the organizations. But to answer the question directly, yeah, they would embrace the solution for a couple of reasons. One, it's a hair on fire problem. I mean, you're hemorrhaging like $40,000 to $90,000 per SDR at the early stage. So if you have an organization, you have 100 SDRs you're churning every year. Okay, that's $40 million, right? No, 4 million. So yeah, that's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And part of it is it's not really something new, to be honest. We're just optimizing what is. They already do these sales competitions. They already have this gamification software. It's just bad. It's passive. It's very passive. It's not interactive. And it's not in a medium where Gen Z is actually on. It's in the back of your office. It's not on your phone.
I have so many thoughts. Can I ask how old you are?
I'm 20.
Congratulations on getting up on stage at 20 and doing this thing. You aren't the youngest. We've had a 16-year-old and 18-year-old on the stage, but you joined them as being top 5 youngest on the crowd. I'm excited by how young you are. The reason I asked that question is because I was trying to evaluate in my head, I'm more excited about your idea probably than even you are. And so I wanted to go okay, what's the form of my advice? I think you actually need to go more grand, partly because you're young. And so I think a lot of the answers that you have will not, even as you add credibility, I talked to this company, you answered her question, still the skepticism will be about okay, I don't know if he's going to be able to sell it as this person from a logistics standpoint. You're not in the L&D space for 20 years building an L&D product. And partly because I think the grand vision of where this could go, if I have it right in my head of what I've assumed, is so much bigger than what you've even been answering. So my perception of the problem, and you tell me if this aligns with yours, I know you contained it for your pitch, but we're in a situation where young people are not going to offices, they're not getting employed, they're not getting osmosis, they're from elderly peers, more experienced. More experienced peers, there we go. Remind me to talk about the men thing, by the way, too. These are little things we gotta fix.
I have a comment about that.
They're not getting any training on soft skills. There's a loneliness epidemic that contributes to the psychology parts of this problem for that individual who isn't advancing in their career. They can't even be an SDR for more than 3 months before they get fired. But by the way, this is true not just across SDRs, this is true across all junior roles with any sense of the first motion, the first phase of your careers, repeating a transaction activity, a motion, where also there's a long-termism that the person has to have but isn't learning today, right? They're like, every LinkedIn post tells you to hate your boss and you owe your company nothing. It's great, live that way and you will lose every game you play in life. And so instead, Level Up. Level Up allows people to have that long-term, bring it with you to every job, streak-based, video game hook-based gamification mechanism to say to that individual, look, there's a bunch of behaviors you're going to have in a particular job. We're starting with SDRs is a thing you'd say. And so SDRs have to do what? They have to prospect, they have to send emails, they have to do cold calls, they have to log, whatever else an SDR might have to do. And we can take all those behaviors and turn them essentially into a bunch of activities. I'm also curious, this whole Level Up, there's that one video game that I think, I don't know if you've seen Habitica.
Precisely. I know what you're talking about.
So this is a habit-based game where you can log and get streaks and you have a little character and avatar. The challenge with that one is I think a lot of people fall off of that because you're fighting a fake, you have to log it, but you're also fighting a little fake boss. I wonder what you can do. You should have visuals too in gamification, but when you're thinking about maybe helping someone feel the reward, if I do 10 cold calls or whatever it might be, how do you visually reward them, help them brag to their friends as their social feed? Anyway, my point being, I really like this. And I think you could change the game. I think Gen Z is completely incapable of doing any work right now. Come after me if you want to. Young people are going to be continually screwed. And so if you figure it out, congrats, you're going to save society.
Can I just jump in with one qualifier here? So I think you have to be careful, though, with what you're solving, because if you're solving people's engagement and that is the main problem, then I think this can really do great things. but you can't make people good at their job. If they're making the call but they suck, like if they are just, if you know, they may not know the product well, they may not just be very personable, or like whatever the other aspects of actually closing the deal, because in the end, the business wants to get new customers. And if you just kind of going through the motions and making the cold calls and you're not getting any success, that's where I think.
Are you selling to companies?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to say something like, I wonder what you're going to think. I think this should be a consumer product. Okay, I've taken all the monetization away. I know. I've taken all the monetization out of this.
Yeah, totally. Poof.
Yeah, I know. But it answers some of what you're talking about, because I think a lot of the reasons what you said made sense to me. I was like, yeah, because the company is going to care about this working. Consumers will want this to work at a more deep and fundamental level. The ones who use it, right? Like this could be an L&D product or a training product or an SDR product, or it could be, consumers who have these roles who want some sense of career success, especially in a day and age when AI is going to take away their ability to make a living. I don't know how you would monetize, and so we'll get to that. But the thing that takes away is this idea that you then have to be good at the end of any of this.
But I think there's a possible way to handle that, and that might be obviously what you give the rewards for. Like we're just talking about this very example, you just made the calls or you made the meetings, right? But not about what happened in those meetings. It's just the fact that the meeting took place. But if you create other reward categories where maybe that same, SDR is going to be put through, 5 pitches with their, teammates or their manager or whoever is like basically training them and overseeing them, and they get like whatever score, then that gets them bigger rewards. Maybe you incorporate some of that interactive.
This is really interesting, because this is where the game thing and the whole we'll talk
about. You get bigger rewards for that. But
the thing that's interesting. So first of all, let me just make a quick comment, and feel free to add on to it. Like, I don't think bringing up that dudes like video games is a bad thing inherently. I'll say though, you will turn off some amount of investors by saying it. So instead, say, men love Call of Duty and women love. I'm just gonna sound sexist. Candy Crush.
I was gonna say Candy Crush.
Jesus Christ. Okay, but I don't know.
How about
There's
Minecraft?
a better version. Everybody loves
Minecraft.
Minecraft. Find a way to not just say that. Don't say what I said either. But the reason I want to go back there for a second is because it's how much are you embracing the game. And the game and the notion of video games as your UX experience. You can still mention it if you're not. But the reason I say that is I think there's a difference to the version of the product that you described. There's more like Habitica, right? It's still a user interface. The manager can log in and help you track things and give you approval. Or is there an avatar I'm fighting?
Oh no, it's a game.
So I think that changes. And I think you need to be explicit about that, the notion of where my brain goes, because then I go, great, this is something a consumer might take them job to job, or it might be something you're trying to delight them on their phone. And this actually answers Anna's question. You do want it to be 10 behaviors where they might have been bad all 10 times. But for you, if it's a game, it doesn't matter. This might be bad for the company, but it doesn't matter because they're going to get a visual satisfaction. And maybe your answer to that question in an investor meeting, when the investor goes, oh, but what if they're bad the 10 times they did it? You could be like, well, you actually, first we try to create base layer behaviors. We're going to help you be good at sending prospecting emails. Next level is good prospecting emails, replies.
So there has to be some training embedded into this, not just this is your, how many calls you have to make on your own without any, you have to engage with others.
You mentioned AI. I think AI is going to actually take away a lot of the prospecting stuff.
Yeah.
We don't want to focus on that much. It's modular. So the employer can go on their web platform, right? And they can modify which actions an employee can do. But
for any job.
Yeah. But pertaining to sales, we focus on shots on goal and how many you make. So that's proposals, demos, etc., and then how many you sell. So that's what really advances you in the game, because it's results driven. Otherwise, you don't make money. So and to the extent, so also another thing about I worked 2 sales jobs. I worked it for 2 years. So the sales is actually uniquely formulaic, because if you do the activity, you will make the sale, even if you're bad. Literally. So you can make it as simple as door knocking doors. Okay, if you're bad, you might have to knock 20 doors, whereas I might have to knock 10. However, you're still going to sell the product.
Your product could be so cool. For the sake of time, I want to wrap our thoughts here. But just as an overall, I want you to the amount of feedback we had in this case is because you are on something so interesting and I think fundamental. And I'll wrap my feedback by saying this: find ways I think you understood everything. You're already thinking everything we're saying. Find ways to package it in like before and after language or other ways to succinctly say, here's how the game has layers of training. Here's how it works for different jobs. You'll say something like it's for early careers, but we're starting with SDRs. The reason that's important to have as part of your shorter pitch, and the reason I'd encourage you to just find ways to make a lot of this more dense, is it's essential to understanding how serious you are about the problem, right? I think if you were just building something that was a logger on top of a CRM, I'd be like, okay, fine. But if you go, here's my vision for how work is going to change for early career professionals and what they need over the next 10 years. By the way, here's where we're starting. SDRs get to log this, this, and that, and get this, this, and that sort of reward and gamification. That allows me to join you no matter what part of that I find most interesting, right? No matter which piece I think can actually work, versus if we have to like pull that out of you through Q&A because you start like in that level up for SDRs, I go, okay, I only got excited because I started to imagine more than you said. And not every investor will do you that favor, right?
Yeah.
So like take all the good stuff and put it in a tighter package.
The only thing I would just say in fairness, he only had a minute. So
You only use 50 seconds of it.
yeah. So you can take a lot of this good feedback, and if you end up having a specific use case with a specific customer, and then it becomes much more real. And I definitely thought this was interesting. Yeah.
Great job.
Cool.
There's this really interesting notion to me here of like a young founder selling something for young people that I think will be both an opportunity and a challenge for him. I haven't thought about it, but I'm curious. Let me leave that. What do you think about that? Like when you see a pitch, whether from an accelerator or an early entrepreneur sends you a cold email, how do you evaluate people who are, let's call it, sub 5 years of career experience?
Well, my immediate thought is that they're thinking too narrowly because they're thinking of their own whatever sample or generation, whatever, I guess, age group that they're exposed to. And that is not representative of the whole, let's say, workforce in this case. So you have to give them the benefit of the doubt for knowing that group better than I would. But at the same time, like, can this scale beyond kind of that sample, right? And then, of course, it is possible that the generation coming after that is going to be even more so or definitely like that. So that might just be kind of the play for the future. But I'm not necessarily convinced. So that's why I want proof points. I want to see that actual serious companies are not making decisions based on the incoming demographic. They're making decisions based on what they know, what's most critical in driving their business as they know it today,
as they understand it.
Yeah. And also as the majority of the type of hire that they would make. I imagine that only a very small percentage of hires would be in this age group. And there would be a lot more like kind of moves of people with a little bit of experience, maybe kind of across the age spectrum. So it doesn't mean that it doesn't work, or it doesn't mean that it's absolutely not credible. It also doesn't mean it's automatically credible, because there are assumptions in both directions that need to be made. And then the only way that you can kind of make up your mind on that is to get some proof points.
Well, I think the other alternative, well, it's not an alternative. I think in addition, I would recommend early founders like this go find people who are legacy and traditional in the space, have a lot of experience. Don't make them an advisor. Don't give them many percentages of your business. Find ways to just like borrow their time, ask them for coffee, whatever it is. But the reason I say that is because, for example, for him, I think the things he would gain by talking to people in L&D, he should ignore most of it, because someone can infect a young entrepreneur who has great ideas and isn't biased. So he should ignore most of what they say. Yeah. But what he would pick up are some of the things you started to bring up around, okay, what about good behavior versus bad behavior that you're encouraging an employee to take? It would be like, okay, what L&D system is this replacing? How much do companies pay for an L&D system? Is this an attachment inside a larger L&D product, or is it its own? And so being able to hear some of that from, again, someone who's been in the space for a long time, while discarding all of their bad advice along the way, that's the balance.
They need to understand what goes into a decision, because that's going to affect the decision. Yeah. And they also, and typically a decision is made, or the urgency of any decision is based on how much of a gap or hole you have in something that is like something's not working. So if nothing's truly broken, if it's just kind of mediocre, it's going to be a very long sales cycle, and it's going to be potentially potentially not even go anywhere.
It's nice to have, yeah. Well, I think we're all going to wrap VR headsets on our face soon anyway and live in Ready Player One. We'll see. So
Hopefully not.
Welcome founder number 3 to the stage with a round of applause. Go ahead and grab that microphone.
Yeah.
What's your name?
My name is Win.
Win?
Is it
It's on. Yeah.
What's your name?
I'm Shervin.
Shervin, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Win.
And you?
Anna.
Anna, nice to meet you.
Like the energy.
Nice to meet
You're going to have a minute to pitch your business and then get some feedback. Are you ready?
I'm ready. You guys ready?
Ooh.
You guys ready?
Love it.
My name is Win. I'm the co-founder of MetroMesh Media. We are an out-of-home advertising media company, and we provide out-of-home advertising space. So what is out-of-home advertising? Well, it's any kind of outdoor advertising, like billboards. But nowadays, advertisers, they are looking for more space. That's why you see taxi top advertising, you see subway advertising, you see bus advertising, and you even see benches, right? Street furnitures advertising. So they are trying to find more space because space is a hot commodity in New York City. At MetroMesh Media, what we are doing is exactly the same. We're providing more space. So imagine us being the first company to provide taxi top advertising. We are them. We are brilliant enough to think about putting advertisement not on taxi top, but on delivery bags. We put advertisement, we put a digital display on delivery bags. So when they are riding, they are also broadcasting our customer's message. Thank you.
All right, under a minute. I want to start with hard to say feedback, but I like to tell hard truth. This is your accent. So I'm curious. There's a 3-word industry phrase that he said repeatedly that describes his product very well. Don't say it out loud. How many of you understood the 3-word phrase? There's one. Towards the end. Okay. So even the main phrase, did you understand the 3-word phrase? It's out of home is what he was saying. Oh. So you have to slow down. Obviously you're on stage, obviously a ton of things, but I like to give founders who have this feedback because even think when you get nervous in a pitch meeting or things like that, you don't want the first time you say out of home to be not understandable. So in your key moments, when the words matter the most, out of home being one of them, slow yourself, like really for out of home advertising.
Out of home advertising.
Perfect.
Yeah. Shervin, I really like the feedback you give right there because actually I wanted to point out myself before the interview. I want to say I'm not from here. I'm from Taiwan, and if you guys don't understand me, you let me know. Yep. And if I don't understand you, I'll let you know. All right.
Kudos to you. But I just want to start with there. So out of home advertising, big category, and so I think understanding that allows a lot of people to enter the conversation with you. And again, once taxis came into play and billboards, I think it becomes a lot more readable. But I'll start with you, or should I go first?
You can go.
Okay. Yeah. I find it fascinating. Now I'll say this. I'll give pitch feedback later. Let me preview it by saying I'm not sure you mentioning taxi tops so many times and saying, well, imagine we're that, but we're doing something else. Just say there's something else, right? Like you can even use like taxi top advertising. We're putting digital displays on delivery bags. A little bit shorter to getting to you versus what others in the industry are doing, because I think it's kind of understandable right away as soon as you say it. As soon as you mention, taxi tops, it's easy. What I'm curious about and most curious about is this space that people, they're paying attention to, as in, do we know people look at delivery bags other than in New York? And obviously in New York, we see them zooming by us on bikes. Is your point only delivery bags, or are you trying to say there are a lot of untouched out-of-home categories, delivery bags is the beginning, and we're going to hit, I don't know what else, but other things. They're like fundamental product questions I guess I have there. Let me, kind of toss that to you as a broad question. What is it at a fundamental level as a product? Is it a delivery bag, digital display? Are you a new out-of-home company with 5 different categories of new space you're creating? And how do you know that these spaces are worth the advertising space, other than the fact they're not currently filled with advertising?
I think, obviously, if you want to work on a startup, you have to think about the competition. And if you go to taxi top or bus side or subway, they're already really big, super big player there, like Off-Road Media, Clear Channel Outdoor, players like that. It's hard to compete. And another thing to point out why we're using delivery bag is because delivery bag is a media that is constantly moving around the city, visible to just about anybody. If I ask right now, who have ever seen a delivery bag today, everybody will raise their hand.
In New York.
Yeah, in New York, especially in big city.
I don't
Bingo.
love that fact
Yeah.
though, right? You think of that as a positive. I think
Yeah.
of that as, oh, your only markets are New York and Chicago.
Yeah, like dense population, exactly.
I still think of it as, every time I say it, you're thinking of it as a positive, but I think of that as a negative.
Can we just clarify, is this delivery, food delivery? Is that what we're talking about? Or what kind of delivery bag are we
The delivery
talking about?
bags on behind like a cooler on a bike messenger's back that has the food in them. You know how it
Right,
currently says
right.
Uber Eats or Seamless?
Right.
He's going to put digital displays around it.
Yeah, it's food delivery and grocery because right now
Okay.
DoorDash,
Okay.
Uber Eats are doing
Because I have a slightly sort of negative take on this whole culture of bikes. In New York, I think it's kind of borderline illegal for these bikes to be riding on the sidewalks, which they do all the time. So I can tell you as a New Yorker, I never look at the bag. I'm trying to just get like out of the way and survive. And sometimes I'll even yell at that person who just almost ran me over. So it's not a good thing that they're that is a consideration. There are a lot of angry New Yorkers like me who, and this happens all the time where, you know, they're just kind of roaming around without consideration for pedestrians. And there's kind of like soft laws, but they're not
Can I
like
say what's
fully
happening
enforceable.
here, by the way? At a philosophical level, the reason she's asking this question is because of the thing I'm still stuck on. You pigeonholed us, or you might tell me this is intentional, into these messenger bags. And I want to still ask this question, so let me ask it directly. Are there any other formats that you are currently building for or want to build for other than these bags?
In the future, we want to build more.
And so when
For
you're
taxi
when
cab
you're
or
when you're a
bus.
$1 billion company, how many SKUs that are different form factors do you think you'll have? Will it be 3? Will it be 10? Will it be 50?
You mean like different category of medias?
Different surface areas, let's call it that.
Yeah, so we're targeting transit advertising. So including
Transit, you said.
Transit. Yeah, sorry. Transit. Subway, bus. taxi-
Subway's already taken, no?
Yeah, and so
Yeah. But there is still space for taxi tops, a bus, right? Those kind of advertising space. We're targeting transit.
Okay. I like the answer to your question other than the specifics because I'm confused. That seems already taken
And
to me.
also,
But
I think you've used the term digital advertising a couple times, but is it digital? What you're doing? Because on the bags,
digital out of home, which
but is it digital though, or is it just plain like it
Anna.
is? Yeah.
I like your question. It is digital.
Okay.
So what we're building is you can go to our website
Yeah.
and you can apply as a beta tester. But right now it's beta testing, and you can go to the software and you can upload your content, and you can pick the writer, specifically which writer you want. And the writer's bag will show your message. So to your point, people don't really look at a delivery bag, right? But I also want to say, people also don't really look at taxi top. Out of advertising is something that is not really about conversion, it's about awareness. So if you take a look into the media we're trying to create, we're not only out of home, we can be in home. That's a creative idea that we got from our advertisers. We can go into buildings. How many times have you encountered delivery riders in your elevator, right? You can do that.
wow. Okay.
can
Great
say
point.
that-
Let me pause.
Okay, sorry.
No. You're on point. 2 things. One is I just want to clarify this digital out of home and out of home. So out of home traditionally will be a billboard, a sign,
Yeah.
a physical piece of paper. The digital part of this is really interesting. I'll do a little bit of selling for you. Think of things like geofencing. So I can target Soho.
No, I totally get that. I was just thinking of the examples of where I would have seen somebody on the delivery bike with, and I don't think I've seen digital displays necessarily.
an
I've
ad.
seen like just an ad like on the bag is just printed as opposed to digital. That's why I was
Okay, got
kind of curious. But I totally get I mean, by the way, taxi is different because taxis stop at a light and they respect the lights.
And so you're getting pigeonholed because you continue to use. So
And you
here's
can see
what's the company's name?
MetroMesh Media.
MetroMesh Media.
Sorry, METROMESH Media.
And can I just also, sorry, clarify, like, are you actually installing these displays? Is that what the product offering is? Or what what is the full product?
Okay, so the bag is produced and manufactured in factories in Asia, and then we will have a local team there to check the quality, and then the bag will be sent to here.
So the
who buys
product
it?
is the bag, and you have software that.
No. So the bag is
Software's the
produced there,
advertising.
and the display is in the U.S.
Let me ask the question differently. How are you
And
going
we'll
to get this
assemble them
in
in the
the?
US.
How are you going to get the bikers to have your bag?
Oh, it's super easy. Just go to the street, talk to them.
And so are they not mandated to be carrying the bag of the app they work for? Like a seamless bag?
No, there's we actually talked to some.
These
of
are
the,
fun facts, by the way, that you have to have as part of your pitch. Some of my objections would be like, oh, are they allowed to carry? And by the way, when you succeed, you will get banned. 1,000% Uber Eats is going to tell all their delivery drivers, don't care. That's not a problem, by the way. That's probably a good sign.
No, unless
They want a kickback.
Unless we work with them.
Yes, 100%. Now, let me bring this to something. You are describing, it's kind of the same thing that happened with the last pitch. You are describing MetroMesh very narrowly. Yeah. I think MetroMesh is a new digital out-of-home advertising business that's targeting the untaken surface areas in our lives.
You should be our salesman.
There we go. I'm ready. I think that you are going on any surface area, starting with, and this is the key phrase, starting with delivery bags in major metros like New York, where we see them flying by. They're in our elevators. Maybe, by the way, even Target food containers is an idea I had. That may be expensive to put a screen on there, but I have some ideas. Anyway, the point is, then you say, well, we're targeting these untaken surface areas where digital out-of-home is actually really important. Digital out-of-home compared to either out-of-home advertising or other forms of physical media, you can target locations, you can target time, you can target events and conferences. There's so much you can do, but we think the amount of space available in the surface area that have been taken, we're actually still only at 5 or 10%. Here are 5 other, and this is the thing I still haven't imagined that well, but like I want you to have 5 other good examples that aren't taxi tops and other taken places, and help me imagine the future with you at scale. Then the next thing you have to talk about is the go-to-market of like, and we're starting with delivery bags because not only is it kind of spacious and square, and there are maybe even 4 surface areas. These drivers today are not committed to be carrying any particular bag, so we're going to hand them out for free, or I don't know. So you see, I want you to be more in vision. Right? When you narrow in on bike messengers and you narrow in on like the stories you're telling today, we get the questions that are a lot about bike messengers. And I think it's a far more interesting business. So I want you to bring some of that vision.
I think that's, in terms of storytelling, I think that's a really good suggestion. I think it also needs to be clear if there's a hardware component to what you're doing, because it seems like there is. And it wasn't clear to me until the last, 3 minutes of this conversation that you are possibly manufacturing these screens and then you're getting them here. And so that like changes, I think, the type of, obviously the cost structure of your business, and you're not just a software business or just an advertising business. So I think you got to explain that.
Yeah, I think it's a very good point, Anna, because lots of VCs, they're worried about the hardware company, right? Because if you're hardware, it means more capital have to be invested in. And we're a mix. Like we have a hardware and we have a software. And I think if to talk about the business model, our business model is very simple. We have the suppliers that who can supply our technology, and then we give the bag to the riders. But not directly. We work with delivery platform. I'm talking about DoorDash, Uber Eats, or other platforms. We work with them. We're actually talking to some of the platforms, so you might be able to see it in the future, maybe next year. And by doing that, we can really lower the cost of manage the riders, because riders are very hard to manage. Lots of them, there are immigrants. There are not.
I don't like this.
Okay. They don't speak English.
No. It's not the specifics that I don't like.
Oh, sorry.
We're again drilling too closely to the bag on the messenger. When you talk about this go-to-market, I would actually prefer you didn't work with the platforms, because you're so much about any surface area. My hat. Maybe I wouldn't put you on YouTube, but maybe the pillar in the office. Maybe what other surface areas do we have? What else? Water cooler? Buildings. What else doesn't have a screen on it that could have a screen? Her purse. What else? I don't know what else. My point is, when you go, we're working with Uber and we're working with Seamless, and we're doing food delivery and all this other stuff. You might. That's your go-to-market to get out there. But I want you to do that grander company. And so your answers to these sorts of questions, or your posits, should actually be mostly about untaken surfaces and I don't think investors who will invest in you will care at all about the capital going into hardware. They'll have questions so the math works.
Yeah, you just have to clarify that that's part of the business. It's not because it's a bad thing that you have to,
Yeah, because where I would have wanted your business model thing to go is we're going to be an ad tech platform. Literally, we will have advertisers come onto our platform and they will be able to upload collateral and target in this location and that location, and we're going to be an ad tech. By the way, ad tech platforms right now, Amazon's killing it on ads, right? Google is losing traffic to Perplexity because not only are they losing traffic, but the surface area is going to go away because now we have AI products that talk to us. So where's the banner ad going to go in the same way? Anyway, my point is stay grand, stay more. I very rarely give this feedback. I'm usually like, describe your product in more detail. How does it literally get manufactured? But for you, because you keep going to examples that only work for the messenger bags and are about delivery companies, you're narrowing my potential scope for your business. Unless you only want to be that business, by the way, then fine.
Well, currently, if I'm being honest, I only want to be on the back, because if we're talking about more formats of media in the future, it's gonna cost a lot. And as a start, I don't even like it. But this is a hard truth because
No.
He's in.
Well, if that's true, then the questions here are the ones to clarify.
I mean, for now,
yeah.
Because let me just advertise our company a little bit. So delivery bags, the reason we want to target it is because they are small enough, but they are also big enough. So imagine the airport billboards you're seeing. It's targeting hundreds of people at a time. So you cannot personalize. But for delivery bag, you can personalize. You can inside an elevator, right, with your customer. All right, Shervin, I'll stop here.
Please, but can I say it's
There's a happy medium here. You can lay out the vision that could apply to many things and then say this is your first.
Well, what's funny is it even applies to my vision for you because, for example, you just mentioned like the Blade Runner thing. That's even cooler. You're like, my device is going to get closer than the billboard, whether it's on a messenger bag or any other surface area. And so when you're in the elevator with the right person, and we can, I don't know how it'll work, but it's Bluetooth, NFC, whatever, and we can retarget through our delivery bag. Every time you've mentioned something new, I like a version of it. And the question that you have to answer is like, can you stay in this narrow version and still compel people? Or do you need to, get the people like me who can't help but imagine your future products? Either way, super compelling. Great job. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.